So, good morning and good afternoon, good evening, good night for those of you getting ready for sleep around the world. And I'm happy to be here. It's starting to get dark here in the morning, and coming down here on the bike, it's kind of cool to come down in the almost dark. So if you go for a long walk, maybe a long hike, with shoes that are way too small for your feet, and after a while, if your feet start hurting quite a bit, the problem is not with the walking, the problem is with the shoes. A huge part of human suffering comes from how people think. And perhaps the problem is not so much the thinking, but rather the clinging to thinking, rather the shoes into which we put the thinking. And if the clinging, the contraction, the craving, that with which we think, that is what contributes to suffering. That's where we lose our freedom. And so an important part of mindfulness of thinking is not only looking at thinking itself in all the ways we've looked at it this week, but rather to also look at our relationship to thinking, in particular the ways that we cling, the ways that what Buddhism would call attachment. And this can be, really clear, addictive thinking that we really can't let go of. But as meditation gets deeper and deeper, even something seemingly as innocent as interest, I'm really interested in this, is a kind of clinging that keeps us glued, attached to the thinking. So part of meditation, part of mindfulness, is to start becoming attuned or sensitive to all the things, all the ways in which we are clinging or attached to, globbed onto, glued onto our thinking. And for that purpose is not necessarily to know the content of what you're thinking, but rather the shoe it fits into, the way we hold it. So maybe in this meditation that can be part of what we focus on. So to begin, and gently close your eyes. And one of the ways to use thinking as a support for meditation is when you begin a session of meditation to think instructions for yourself, to kind of review the basic instructions that you use, and so give yourself a little guided meditation rather than letting your thinking do whatever it wants to do. Bring it along. Get it to cooperate with what you're trying to do and meditate. And for a minute or two, you can quietly, peacefully give yourself instructions. It's a very intentional use of thinking. And as you do so, let your thinking become meditative in nature, calm, relaxed, easy with what's happening. So I will do it this morning, and you can just go along with it, or you could quietly repeat it to yourself so that you can get a little sense of what it's like to give yourself instructions and thereby harness your thinking to kind of start really being here in the present moment. Taking a few moments to adjust your posture. Looking to see how you can have a little more alert posture. Could let your attention travel up the spine. Perhaps there's very small adjustments in the spine that makes the spine feel more alert. All the way up to the last vertebrae where it meets the skull. Sometimes creating a little space between the vertebrae and the skull by tipping the head down a little bit and lifting the crown of the head slightly. It can bring a little bit more presence. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Settle in as you exhale. Relax the body as you exhale. Softening the belly. Letting the breathing return to normal. And for a little bit longer, see where the body you might relax, soften. If there are other concerns and thoughts that are pulling you away, can you feel the pressure or the contractions, the pull associated with this thinking? Tightening anywhere in the body. And as you exhale, to relax that pressure and pull, tightness. And then in a simple, kind way, center attention on the body breathing. Discover where breathing, the body's experience of breathing, is most available as the home base, the home for attention. And for a little while here, you might see what it's like to trust the experience of breathing. For this time, entrust yourself, as it's the most useful and helpful thing to do, is just breathe with attention. Accompany your body breathing. And then you might now bring mindfulness to thinking. If you don't think, you might be welcome to go back to your breathing. But if thinking arises, don't let go of it. Bring a kind, calm attention to notice, to be mindful of the thinking. And if some of the instructions from the week were helpful, see if you can be mindful not so much of not the content, but the process, the activity of thinking. The sensations of the body that are associated, the emotions that are associated. where the thinking is occurring. Explore the qualities, characteristics of the activity of thinking. And if you, as you're looking at thinking, associated with that thinking, is there any sense of that you're interested, some part of you is interested in the thoughts, fascinated, attracted to them? There's the interest associated with fear and anxiety. Is there desire associated with thinking? The thinkings represent something that you want or don't want. Are you somehow troubled by your thoughts? Maybe even repelled a little bit, pulling? Or do you have ideas that you should be thinking or you shouldn't be thinking? So these are all attitudes or reasons why we might be caught up in or involved with thinking. And it's possible to feel then how much we're involved with our thoughts. Are we all in, completely involved, and it's the most important thing that's happening in the moment is our thinking? Or are we easygoing and we're thinking, but we could hardly care less what we're thinking about? And in noticing this, is there anything that could be called clinging to thoughts, clinging to thinking? A contraction, a pulling, a pressure to think? Some insistence to be thinking? A compulsion to think? And that compulsion or insistence or the strong pull, it's possible to bring mindfulness to that, to bring simple, calm awareness of compulsion, the drivenness of thinking. Some of that has to do with the strength of wanting, the strength of not wanting, that is feeding the way we're involved with or reacting to thinking. And then as you breathe, perhaps you can soften, relax, let go of anything that might be called clinging to thinking. Any of that attitude that's fueling the thinking. Any of the physical sensations that are part of that drive to think. Or the emotions that are part of the drive to think. Relax, soften, release the drive to think. And to whatever degree there's an absence of clinging, appreciate that absence. And let the breathing, experience of breathing, fill that absent space. And as we come to the end of this sitting, to use whatever we've learned about not clinging to thoughts when we're involved with other people, when we're thinking about them or in conversations with them in which we're also thinking, or when we're helping and supporting and serving other people. What would it be like to be involved and relate to people, help people in this world without any compulsion around thinking, without any drive or attachment to our thoughts, including our attachments and clinging to being of service and to help, to allow our thoughts to arise and pass freely, to be able to choose which thoughts to allow and not allow. And may it be in the freedom of our mind, without any compulsion or sense of obligation, obligation which involves some clinging or pressure. Choose to live for the welfare and happiness of others. Choose to think about how to serve and help and be helpful or supportive, loving or caring for others. May it be that our care and compassion arises from a place of non-clinging, non-attachment, so that when we are concerned for the welfare and happiness of all beings, we have also taken care of our own happiness, the happiness that comes from not clinging, the absence of the suffering of attachment. May all beings be free of attachment. May all beings be free of the contraction and suffering of clinging. May all beings be happy from the absence of suffering. May all beings be free. And may this wish of ours float widely and far out on the winds of non-attachment, the winds of non-clinging.